Hey everybody, it's Haley. Welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be doing an entry for day 8 of By the Well for God's When God Asks a Question devotional. So I've got a few things laid out. I'm doing another tip-in instead of working directly into my Bible because it's getting pretty chunky. So I don't really know what I'm going to do, but you can watch over my shoulder and I'll put you on fast forward and get started. So when I was creating this tip-in, I only had about 30 minutes carved out. And I have 2 kids, so I really only had like 20, let's be honest. I'm really digging the Dusty Concord Distress Oxide right now. And so I just wanted to get some color on the page. First of all, I want you to know, the Wendy Vecchi Make Art Station, that blue thing that I'm crafting on top of with the magnets, is actually really fantastic. I am just a bull in a china shop when it comes to crafting. I don't have a lot of finesse when I don't have a plan. So those magnets are great. I'm just not sweet when I'm doing this. If you wanted a smoother blend, you could use maybe a layer of clear gesso. That won't let the color intensify very much. It will take longer to dry, but it creates more of like an acrylic kind of surface, so the ink can move around a little better and can kind of smooth out. One thing that I love to do when I'm crafting in a hurry or creating in a hurry is tone on tone. Color theory is not my spiritual gift, and if I had my way, everything would be like neon. But since this kit comes in these beautiful colors, I can't do neon because it wouldn't match. So it creates a lot of visual texture without adding bulk of like die cut pieces. And I don't have to worry about trying to match colors because it's all one color, just 3 different applications. So I did the blending foam, I did the stamping 1st and 2nd generation, and now I'm going to smush out some ink on my acrylic block, wet a paintbrush, and then splatter paint the Distress Oxide all over the tip-in. And what's cool about that is Distress Oxides react with water in a very unique way. Because they're a blend of dye and pigment inks, when they get wet, they take on the look of an oxidized material. So this Dusty Concord, where the water droplets landed, has almost like a light kind of robin's egg blue, or maybe like a lavendery, a really faint bluish purple color. And so it coordinates with the color, which is great. I didn't have to think about trying to match it. But it also adds like more texture, more color depth, and it kind of gives it like a mottled look. I don't know, it's really fun. So I'm using a 6x6 piece of paper from the paper pad from By the Well for God that you can buy to accompany the kit, and now I'm cutting out a piece of vellum to go on top of it. I'm going to put my title on the vellum and a die cut that I edge with the Dusty Concord Distress Oxide. And then I'm going to use one of the 3x4 journal cards to write my journaling and slide it into a pocket I made, or will make, as you'll see in a few minutes, out of a scrap piece of the pattern paper. So, anyway, so this entry I'm putting in my Bible around Job 38. So, the book of Job is really interesting. You can find it in the Old Testament. And Job was a righteous man who had everything taken away except his wife and a few friends, I use that term loosely, who counseled him that he must have sinned to have endured the suffering that he did, which was great. Job's suffering was very great. And even his wife said, "What, are you still holding on to like your righteousness? Like, just curse God and die." Like, it's a very interesting read. So the first 37 chapters of the book, Job and his friends are discussing the troubles that he has found in this season of his life. And his friends are basically like, well, you must be like an unrepented sinner, or, you must have done something wrong or whatever, because this wouldn't have happened to you otherwise. And Job's like, bro, like, come on now. Are you really saying that to me? It's like, as I sit here in this ash heap covered in boils that I'm scratching with broken pottery, like, come on now. It's not very great. And so 37 chapters go by, and it's one friend, then Job, then another friend, then Job, and they're just going back and forth. And Job's like, I'm not hiding sin. And so then all of a sudden, in chapter 38, the Lord answered Job. And here's what it says. The Lord answered Job out of the whirlwind. Isn't that just perfect? Like, there are times in my life, I'm getting goosebumps just thinking about situations in my life where I felt like I was in a whirlwind, and I'm asking God, like, answer me, like, teach me something, speak to me. But anyway, he answered him out of the whirlwind and said, who is this that darkens counsel by words without knowledge? Dress for action like a man. I will question you, and you make it known to me. Oh, snap. Like, I don't ever want to hear God say that to me. Dress for action like a man. No, thank you. Just stay in my sweats and I'll apologize. And then in verse 4, God says, where were you? And the next two chapters are God proclaiming, like, his power, his wonder, his majesty, his omnipotence, his omniscience, his sufficiency, his strength, his creativity, the glory and the honor that are due him. And it all started, where were you when I did all of these things? And when I read this, I was more struck by the times in my life where I've asked God, where were you? Like, where were you when my friend Dave died? Where were you when my son was diagnosed with autism? Where were you when his speech completely regressed and he was completely nonverbal? Where were you when this happened? Where were you with this? Where are you in this right now? So my journaling says, sometimes I ask you this question, God, when I feel like my life and circumstances are somehow unfair. But I was not with you before. And what I mean by that is, like, everything has a beginning except for God. Even time, it's like maybe like a social construct. We started marking time. But there was a time before time when it was just God. And I wasn't there then. And I wrote, help me follow hard after you now. I loved the quote that the author included from George Mueller. His wife had died, and he said, I miss her in numberless ways, but as a child of God, I bow. And I thought of the conversations I've had lately with my amazing, strong-willed, independent, creative, delightful little girl. She'll be 6 in August. And she's what I think of when I read as a child. And, we're getting to that point where she's starting to get upset with my decisions. And in my head, I'm like, I'm your mom. Like, just do what I say. Because I know that there's things that I know that you don't know. And that just really struck me as I read that. God's my father. And there's things that he knows that I don't know. And so I submit and I bow to his wisdom. And I want to close with this quote that's included from Charles Spurgeon that I adore but also hate at the same time because of how convicting it is for me. I have learned to kiss the wave that throws me against the rock of ages. I hope that as I continue to grow in my faith, I can continue to become the person who trusts the Rock of Ages enough to ride the wave back to the shore instead of trying to swim against the current. Thanks so much for joining me. Please like this video if you enjoyed it. Click that subscribe button so you catch all my future videos. And if you have any questions or comments, leave them in the comment section down below.